genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. Today we're going to be discussing a movie that asks the really hard questions, or possibly the hardest question, which is, why is Earth such a hard place to live? Pondering that is my guest, Presley Peters. So, Presley, is All Monsters Attack a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
It should have been remade a long time ago. It probably should have been remade on the cutting room floor. But you know what? I think that it needs to be remade now. Now more than ever, honestly.
Now more than ever? It's, the people are ready for All Monsters Attack. The hour-long Godzilla movie.
Yeah, the hour-long feature.
Yeah, which by standards in the United States doesn't qualify as a feature.
Yep.
Rules are 82 minutes, and this was 70.
79 or something.
No,
it was
not
70.
the version I saw on Max.com.
109. It's an hour and 9 minutes. Yeah. That puts it right under.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yeah, so this was fun. No, genuinely, like, we're making that face, but I didn't dislike this movie as much as it sounds like you did, but I also don't have, like, the personal connection to Godzilla that you do.
I think most of my heartache, maybe, from this movie comes from the fact that it's not even necessarily a Godzilla movie. I want it to be.
Yeah.
And it's called All Monsters Attack, but we really only get one scene, and it's actually, I saw some research on this. It's a bunch of other clips from other Godzilla movies that have been recut into this movie.
Except for the one.
Except for the one.
That's funny.
So it's very interesting to me because this movie is made by the guy that made the original 1950s Godzilla.
Really?
The good one that everybody was like, oh my gosh, Godzilla and the atomic bomb and everything. Yeah. Yeah, he was, I did some research. I don't remember what the reasoning was, but he just was like, let's make an hour-long movie where a kid is getting bullied and his parents aren't home, and he keeps having dreams about going to Monster Island and being friends with Minila is like Godzilla's mini son version.
So in the subtitles of the version I was watching, it was Manila.
Uh-huh.
And then in the IMDb Pro credits, it was Manira.
Oh,
which is fascinating in not a pleasant way. So I don't know which one it is, but I'm going to go on a limb and say it's Manila. Like Godzilla, but Manila. So
that's what I was thinking it was supposed to be.
Because it's Mini La, Godzilla, but Mini La.
And it's his son.
Yeah. Anyway, before we get too deep into it, Presley, welcome back to Ideal Remake.
Hello, happy to be back.
Why don't you take a second and introduce yourself to the people listening? For anyone who didn't listen to your remake of the other kind of monster movie.
I like monster movies.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah, I like big monsters. And hi, I'm Presley Peters. I'm a costumer and a writer out here in LA. And I am looking for a job like everybody else. But I'm having fun watching movies with friends.
Yeah. So do you remember the first time you saw All Monsters Attack?
Last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So you had just heard of the quote-unquote one of the worst Godzilla movies ever.
Yeah.
And you were like, I want to talk about that one.
I want to talk about that one.
I think you were right to do so.
I love a challenge. I wanted to come in cold. I wanted to really see how bad is the worst Godzilla movie. Because, like, when you go back and you watch them, they show their age. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's got a charm to it. But there's definitely some movies where you look back and you're like, do we need aliens?
Yeah. Well, it's also like part of what extended the runtime of this movie was a very long opening title sequence, like a lot of credits where they were showing clips from other Godzilla movies. Mm-hmm. It was like, hey, we've made a bunch of other Godzilla movies, right?
Yeah, right? Yeah, guys? Yeah.
This felt kind of like an after-school special kind of Godzilla movie.
Especially with, like, the A plot and the B plot.
Yeah.
The B plot was a very weird inclusion and didn't... The whole thing about this movie, as I was watching, it was like, none of these scenes are really stacking on top of themselves to really give stakes to the story, and it didn't. Yeah, so
it's a sloppy movie.
It's a sloppy movie.
But so I also watched this movie for the first time yesterday. I watched it in pieces over the course of the day. Mm-hmm. I have a couple different questions because there's like different things and perceptions about Godzilla that I don't know and I think are interesting, because Godzilla is as created and as introduced, is a metaphor for the atomic bomb.
Right.
It's this unknowable, unstoppable force, basically an eldritch being that comes out of nowhere, cannot be stopped, and destroys everything we know.
Yeah.
That is Godzilla as created. That's Godzilla in the, like, all of the, like, greatest Godzilla movies.
Yeah, so, like, the way I think about it is the original Godzilla 1954, Gojira, is about the atomic bomb, of course. You have other movies like Shin Godzilla, where it's about, natural disasters, global warming, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then you have the legendary ones where it's about corporate greed. And I just mean that because they keep on making more of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then they also have, like, Godzilla -1 is also absolutely about like, atomic bombs and destruction and just, like, and trauma.
Yeah. War trauma and what that does to a country.
Yeah.
As a whole.
And then we have the American ones where, like, certainly the first Godzilla movie, it's like, oh, there's nothing we can do. It's an unstoppable force. But luckily it has these other monsters to fight, and then it just goes back to minding its own business.
Yeah.
And so that's my kind of perception as Godzilla as created. Mm-hmm. Do you know when in the life of Godzilla he kind of became this, like, kids cheer from, like, yeah, Godzilla! Because as soon as Godzilla starts fighting other monsters, all of a sudden Godzilla becomes a hero, and that always feels weird.
Well, so, we had Godzilla, and then we had the other movies like Rodan and Mothra, where we started to see the inclusion of other monsters. And those, in the original Godzilla, he was the enemy of man, and it was in these other movies like Rodan Attacks that we see him go up against other threats that humans have considered just as dangerous, if not more dangerous. So it's somewhere in the 60s, definitely. Mothra certainly, as a movie, helped, like, garner in the idea of, like, Monster Island, Kaiju Island. It was really when we started to get the inclusion of more and more monsters that they needed something to tack on as, like, we need something to defeat this. And what was originally the dangers of humanity personified, it became the heroes of humanity personified.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's interesting. So basically the way this movie works is there's this little kid whose parents work all the time, he's dealing with bullies, and he's always scared, and he dreams of being friends with Godzilla because Godzilla doesn't have to deal with bullies. Mm-hmm. And Godzilla always stands up for himself and defends himself.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be cool to be friends with someone like that who can fight my battles for me?
Right.
The movie doesn't explicitly say that, but it is kind of like what we as filmmakers can kind of figure out. And
I think it does actually explicitly say that at one point in the movie. It's like Manila is talking about how Godzilla is training him and is telling him to go fight his own battles, and then, like, in the real world, the little kid, I think it's Ichido?
Yeah, Ichido.
Yeah, keeps having these, like, flashbacks to his dream where Manila is, like...
He keeps falling asleep and dreaming of being on Monster Island.
Yeah, which, like, is this kid got a fever or something? Because he falls asleep, like, 3 times in the same day.
He falls asleep when his adrenaline should be at peak, because he does get kidnapped by bank robbers.
Yep.
I assume bank robbers. They say they stole 50 million yen. Yeah. They don't say from where. Maybe they're the Robin Hood hero of the people. But they kidnapped this kid and then threatened him with a knife, whatever. What was the name of the... What did the kid keep calling his bully? Ghidorah?
Ghidorah or something like that. Yeah. There was, like, a weird thing where, like, Manila had his own sort of bully, and they were both, like...
They basically were functioning as the same name.
They were foiling, yeah.
And the design of Manila's bully was like, it was like a weird, like, reptilian, like, scaly monster dragon with hair, which I thought was really cool. And it turns around and has no tail, and you're just like, oh, now it's dumb and silly.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's this other giant lizard monster. Like, it makes sense that this one giant lizard monster would be like this other giant lizard monster.
Yeah.
If he'd had a tail, it would have been actually, I think, a really good design. but then it doesn't, and it's just the rubber suit, and you're just like, oh no.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing about this movie, that it has it very clearly was something that was shortcutted. I don't know if studios cut it down. I mean, like I said earlier, they used a lot of footage from the other movies for the moments where Godzilla was fighting other monsters. So at the end of the day, it just gets really goofy, and it's very... You stop taking it seriously very early on.
Yeah. Yes. And the design of Minilla is famously
horrifying.
terrible.
Yeah.
Like, he has these weird, like, rattata teeth.
Yeah.
Where it's just, like, 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, and it's just, like, a kind of, like, weird.
Very rodent-y.
But, like, his, like, design is... It feels like he's made out of a pile of garbage.
Yep.
And he has these, like, weird gloves. Like, you sent me a gif
of him doing his, like, blowing an O-ring.
Yeah.
Because he can't do plasma breath yet.
So he, like, all he does is exhale, and a ring of smoke comes out. And, like, you're like, this is the thing that's bad. I'm like, no, the thing that's bad is look at his hands.
Yeah.
He, like, literally is going, ta-da, with his hands.
Uh-huh.
And, listener, you can't hear me, but, like, when you think of someone going ta-da, and, like, whatever motion they do with their hands, that's what he does. It's so weird. Now, Minilla also has the actually really interesting ability that I think is worth talking about, which is when he's talking to Ichiro, he's small. He's person-sized.
And then he can go and fight other kaiju by changing his size all of a sudden.
To kaiju size. And he's still not Godzilla size, but he is Godzilla's kid size.
Yeah. So I wonder, I was watching this movie, and when I first saw that, it made me really start wondering, okay, did this director, was he really trying to hone in on the, like, childlike audience? Was he really trying to go Super Sentai? Because I don't know when Super Sentai really started up. I think it was in the 60s, because that feels about, like, we had, like, Speed Racer in the 60s, and we had a whole bunch of stuff that started coming out around that era, so I would believe Super Sentai started then. But the whole, like, changing sizes for, like, a Megazord or, like, a monster, like...
I think we can safely assume it doesn't originate here.
Yeah.
But it gets used in a lot of different places. Like, it happens in, it's Attack on Titan or whatever. It happens in the Pacific Rim TV show. It happens...
That's right. Don't remind me.
This show was fine.
It was fine.
Yeah, that is the best we can say. Better. Yeah, we all wanted it to be better. It's Pacific Rim. We wanted the sequel to be better too.
We're wanting the prequel to be better too.
I'm good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're gonna find out. Like, the sequel, I might remake that sequel someday. That might be an episode I do in the future. However, like, I think that as, like, this character of, like, I'm making friends with a monster, because, like, there's aspects of this of, like, are we just going to, from scratch, create our own Godzilla movie? Or are we going to kind of take some of the ideas and try to do them as best we can?
I'm taking, I think, a few things. I actually put down notes of, like, what I'm specifically looking to take from in this movie. And if you want me to list through those right now, I can. If you want me to
go for it. Well, how much of the movie do we need to go through? Like, it's a kid scared of bullies, makes friends with he ends up getting kidnapped by the bank robbers, and then he ends up fighting back, and that gives him the courage to stand up in his own life. And now he says he's friends with Minilla, and, like, the reporter's like, whoa, okay, what does that mean? And, like, the toy maker, who kind of is his surrogate parent because his parents aren't home, is like, well, I guess this kid, we believe in gods, kids believe in their own kind of gods.
I'll be honest. First off, I don't know about the whole we need to believe in our own.
No, that's a terrible line.
I think that might take that.
Yeah, that line is gone.
But I also don't know if the robbers necessarily need to be part of the story either. I think it was definitely the weaker end of this movie.
Sure. I
think if we include it, it might be more in a supporting, kind of helping push the character forward kind of way. Like, they're there along the... I could get into that later when we start really digging into it. But
what I think they can be is, I think they can function as this kid is scared of this other kid, and until all of a sudden something that is an overwhelming threat appears. Mm-hmm. And if he finds the courage to stand up to this overwhelming threat, then this other kid is nothing.
Yeah.
And I feel like for that purpose, because, like, the whole idea of Godzilla and Ghidorah, whatever, all these huge overwhelming threats that seem insurmountable. But if you, like, kind of believe yourself to be like, yeah, we can do it, we have the power, like, if you can take on that, you can take on pretty much anything.
So I think the elements of this movie that I really wanted to reincorporate or keep in was learning to grow up in a world where you're out of control by tying yourself to the community around you, like he did with his neighbor.
Yes, the neighbor who served him dinner, and dinner was hot pot, and that's the dinner we had on Wednesday. It was very fun.
So the neighbor that made him hot pot, that also was like there to like call his mom and be like, everything's okay, he's just napping. The one whose car got stolen.
Yeah,
like he was. It was very interesting to see like this one-off kind of character who's actually kind of interesting in my opinion. Him being like an inventor, like he didn't get to do.
Yeah, the toy maker. Like, he was kind of there to be like, well, times are hard. I'm not really able to sell the toy designs, but I can relate to you, child, and I'm kind of here to take care of you and give you someone to talk to so you're not just talking to yourself about how sad you are that your parents aren't home right now.
Yeah. And so I think that's, that was, in my opinion, giving towards the sort of community-based sort of idea.
Yeah.
I'd like to keep that in.
I mean, I do think that's important, especially for Godzilla movies.
Right. And that's what I'm going to get to. I think when I start rolling out what my sort of vibe for this movie would want to be, if we want to talk about that, we can get into that. But I think Manila should operate more like an 80s coming-of-age character in this movie, like an E.T. or a Short Circuit or a Gremlins sort of situation.
Okay.
And I think hardworking parents that are essential workers instead of that are helping rebuild post kaiju attack. So that's why they're busy all the time, is because they're also part of this community and they're busy trying to keep the community going. Mm-hmm. So what I want to keep in this movie is the ties that are grounding for this character as much as possible. When we get into it, like, I really want to see this movie to be child friendly, but in that sort of sense that has some grit to it. Like, it's going to be a very adult oriented story, but it's one of those movies that you watch with your kid to be like, the world can be a scary place, but when you work with the people that are around you, things become less scary, and you can take on the world by yourself, by surrounding yourself with people that are there for you.
Yeah.
And so what I would want from this remake is to make it an actual Godzilla movie, not a dream sequence.
I think I agree with that.
Where Godzilla comes in and knocks down San Francisco or Tokyo or wherever we would want to put Godzilla in this movie, and he does find maybe like a baby Godzilla, and we can keep the Godzilla growing part, like the baby Godzilla growing, but at the end of the day, like, I think I want it to feel more like E.T. Like, this kid has created a bond with this creature that is vulnerable like he is because his parents aren't around and Godzilla's not around right now. And so the two of them are growing and living through this unprecedented time and having to learn how to navigate for themselves morally and survival, and with their survival instincts. And it's hard, and they do that with the community that they have around them. Yeah,
so I think the lesson of learning to trust and believe in your community is going to be the moral and lesson of the movie, because I also agree. I think it needs to be a kid's movie. It needs to be about something. It needs to teach a lesson. And I think the lesson needs to be that there are no easy solutions, and that easy solutions often come with a price. Because I think very much, like, in as much as I appreciate and like the insurmountable odds kind of thing of, I like that this kid sees Godzilla as a hero because he's like, oh, this is a monster that fights other monsters and no one else can fight him. Like, the number of people in this world who hero worship pure strength just based on the fact that they idealize strength. It's like all the different versions and art styles of Superman or Batman or Goku or whatever, where all of a sudden it's like this power fantasy of like, I wish I was strong like that.
Over 9,000. Yeah,
because then no one would take shit from me or whatever. Like, whatever the actual phrase is, like, if I was that strong, I could do whatever I wanted. And so there's people who look up to people that they perceive as strong, that Andrew Tate's or whatever. It's like, yeah, being a real man means being strong and just shoving eggs up your ass or whatever it is they do. I don't know. I've never watched.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm going to quietly dip my hands in water.
Good callback.
Thank you. That's a joke just for you.
Just for me. Anyway,
And,
Saratoga water. Not a sponsor.
No, nor should they be.
Nor should they be.
And so I think the idea is I think that we should have a kid who looks up to that level of strength and then learns that that level of strength is not only dangerous but also bad, and should learn that the real strength is in the community. I think he should be initially dismissive of the toy maker.
Yeah.
And then learns to be oh, okay, this is a guy who actually if we work together we can actually do something. And I think this bully is really scary, but part of the reason why I've never stood up to him is because he's surrounded by friends. Mm-hmm. I'm surrounded by no one. I don't make friends with anybody because I just spend all my time talking about how great Godzilla is. And oh, this person is cool, but you know who's cooler? Godzilla. Mm-hmm. And so finally this kid's meets Manila, and it's hey, cool, you're like Godzilla. And he doesn't even appreciate Manila because he's just trying to use Manila to get to Godzilla. Yeah. Which I thought was really interesting because the movie doesn't do this at all. I'm projecting. But he makes friends with Manila, and all of a sudden he's so I'm talking to a monster. That's really cool. But it's not cool because you know Godzilla and you can introduce me to Godzilla. Yeah. And the monster's I'm also a monster. Yeah. And I'm also and so this kid trying to take advantage of this monster that he also doesn't appreciate the value of leads to the monster becoming a monster. Mm-hmm. And it's oh no, now the city is under attack from
a growing Manila.
A growing and terrifying Manila. And that's a genuine real threat. And now all of a sudden this kid's oh no, I helped this monster get big so that I could use it to get to Godzilla, and now it's big and a threat. That strength is a problem, and now it's taking out the town, and that's bad. Mm-hmm.
And then you force it into the classic Godzilla lineup of we now have to get our community together to take down this,
or at least scare it out of
town.
Because the whole issue is it's a Godzilla movie. There's going to need to be Godzilla, and I think Godzilla is going to need to be a threat. Yeah. Which means that, oh no, Manila got too strong, we can't handle it, let's call Godzilla. Mm-hmm. Godzilla and Manila fight, and then it doesn't really matter which one of them wins. Godzilla wins, it's Godzilla. Mm-hmm. Now we have a bigger problem, and it is Godzilla's here. Yeah. What are we going to do? Yeah. So, how do we want to begin that story?
I think we almost start it the inverse way that the movie goes. I don't know why he decided to scare the guy painting the board at the end of the movie.
Yeah, the fact that happens at the end of the movie, it's oh cool, so you learn no lessons and are a bad kid now.
Yeah, you said you weren't going to join these bullies, but you're going to do the thing that the bullies told you to do.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah, so I think if we start the movie with Ichiro coming in and getting bullied and being forced to go and do that, and he feels powerless because of all this. Yeah. And he's actively doing the things that he's been told to do, and he scares this guy, and we see the toxic masculinity. We just need to have this moment where the bullying shows the toxic masculinity is taking a foothold in Ichiro from the start. Yes. And from there, I think
this big kid is beating me up, but if I was an even bigger kid, everything would be fine. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then we put Ichiro. He goes home. Maybe we have his neighbor that's a tinkerer, or maybe he's one of the robbers. That was one of my things that we were thinking is do we incorporate the robbers? We're in maybe a destroyed portion of the world, and they're rebuilding after a kaiju attack. Did this neighbor of his that is trustworthy, is he just trying to find a way to make a quick buck off of something that he found? Maybe it's not robbery, maybe it's more of recovery.
No, I think we can do this a different way. Okay. The way I would do it is I think the neighbor should be the person that he dismisses because he sees this person's kindness as weakness and useless. And then at the end of the movie when they're it's the toy maker that rallies the town and gets everyone together to fight back or scare people out or do whatever. I think that in the movie as it exists, there's kind of this burned out abandoned factory and the kids just kind of wander around this incredibly dangerous zone, but whatever. I think that this kid should look up to kind of the bad guys that are holding up there. We can even have the robbers at the beginning of the movie because I think that the kid's wow, they saw what they wanted, they took it. They stood up to the police, they did what they wanted. I want to be like those guys. Hey guys, how do I become like you? As they're getting dragged away by the cops, it's fuck you, kid. What? Yeah. Or like literally the robbers are like, hell yeah, never listen to anybody, kid. You do whatever you want, everything's gonna work out okay. Get in the car, blah, 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 head down, whatever.
Yeah.
You have the right to remain silent.
Yeah.
And like this kid is just getting all of the wrong lessons because he's idolizing the wrong people.
Yep.
And I think that's what needs to happen. Like, we need the robbers at the beginning to the point where then at the end of the movie, when everyone's fighting back, like, everyone, including the police, the robbers, everyone's working together to get Manila, Godzilla out of the town as best they can. And I think that's what we're going to need to do.
I agree. Yeah. And so,
like, Act 1 is Ichiro is being beat up by the bully. He wishes he was big and strong, bigger than the bully. He sees these robbers. They're big and strong. They do what they want. They're happy. They're having fun. They get arrested, but whatever. They're living their truth.
They're doing it with smiles on their face.
The toy maker comes to help cheer Ichiro up, but Ichiro is like, "What are you doing? Stop being nice to me. I don't deserve it because I'm weak and small. I don't deserve kindness because I am not strong.
My parents aren't here. They don't care about me enough to,
yeah." But like, I always need to be the biggest, the baddest, the scariest. And you know who is? News report.
Godzilla
It's been 5 years since the last Godzilla attack. And we're always vigilant because you never know when Godzilla might attack again.
And then at that moment,
I need to be like that. I need to be like Godzilla. I'm going to do everything I can to be like Godzilla. And then that's when we find out. And so that's towards the end, but Act 1 ends with him meeting Manila. Not by falling asleep, but because Manila is actually in town. Yeah,
and I think that was like what my sort of idea was, that Godzilla maybe would stomp into town and cause a bit of a push into the second act by a bit of destruction and having him have to make hard decisions because Manila maybe gets left behind.
We could do that. I feel like once Godzilla attacks, Godzilla has attacked. Because, like, in every other Godzilla movie I've seen, anytime Godzilla attacks, you have to do, like, a 3 years later after the town has rebuilt.
Sure.
And I feel like if we want this to be this kid's continual story, we can't have that.
You can't have it be broken down. Okay, cool.
And, like, I feel like it could be something where this kid... you can literally do the E.T. thing, where all of a sudden he hears noises outside. He goes to investigate. He's like... Mom and Dad aren't here. I have to, like, defend the house. I have to be big and strong, whatever. Or, like, kid, like, stop messing with our house. You've TP'd our house so many times. Yeah. Just stop it this time.
Yeah.
And he goes outside, and, like, it's the shadow of this big, scary monster. He's like, oh, no, Godzilla's attacking again. Run, run, run.
And then...
And it's a tiny little monster.
It's a cute little guy. That is very clearly a Godzilla runoff.
Yes.
But it is not a Godzilla yet.
Minila.
It is a Minila. Yeah, and that's the way I was also seeing it. And so he's now has this pet that he is dismissive of, but it follows him around. And he has this responsibility forced on him. And
he sees this pet that is cat-sized fight off another cat. And he's like, oh, okay. You fought off another cat that was slightly bigger than you.
Yeah.
And you're also a little bit bigger than you were yesterday. What happens if I keep feeding you?
Yeah, and so now we get, like, the water horse, but a little bit darker.
Yeah, okay. Sure, okay.
The bad movie water horse. Classic movie water horse. But I just mean that in, like, he's growing, and the character has to grow in the same sort of, like, direction. Yeah. Which, maybe not the greatest movie.
Tell you what, we even, like, if we decided to, like, do the robbers in Act 2 of, like, yeah, you're gonna be like them, Manila, because you, like, see how strong they're being and how they're fighting off? The police are bigger than them. There's more than them, but they're fighting them off. You can be like that. Stuff like that. And he's showing this little monster images of Godzilla. And, like, he is telling everything. He's telling this mini monster about the greatest of all monsters. And how if you don't make friends with anybody, you don't, like, trust anyone, you just focus on being the strongest, then everyone fears you, and therefore they respect you. Yep. And, like, there's shrines and everything talking about how strong Godzilla is. Godzilla is the strongest monster. When all monsters attack, only one stands above them all. Yep. Godzilla.
Roll credits. No, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm trying to justify the name. It's not a good name.
No, the all monsters never attacked in the movie either. There was more so in a dream that I guess they attacked.
And even, not even all. It was, like, a couple of ant monsters.
Yep.
A crab monster. A lobster monster.
Anguirus showed up, which was always a fun feature. We love Anguirus.
Yeah. Was that the lobster one?
No, he's the, like, hedgehoggy looking one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There was the hedgehog-looking one. The lobster one was very silly because Godzilla throws a rock, and then the lobster bats the rock back, and then Godzilla bats it back, and then it bats it. And
they do it like 4 times.
Yeah, they're playing tennis with this boulder until finally, like, the lobster catches it, throws it really hard, and Godzilla's like, stop, no, and just, like, knocks the boulder away.
Yeah.
It's like,
okay.
That was very silly.
It was very silly.
Like, that's not scary. That's silly.
It is a certain chapter of Godzilla sort of silly,
Very
but
much so.
It was unnecessary.
Yeah. And then, like, there's the spider monster.
Yeah.
And, of course, Ghidorah, who has electricity powers, which seem to be painful or annoying, but not damaging, not like atomic breath. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's on Max, if anyone wants to watch All Monsters Attack.
But,
what do we want our Act 2 to be? Because I feel like we know what our Act 3 should be.
So I think Act 2 is going to be a lot of Ichido pouring in this toxic masculinity, and then as Minilla gets bigger and bigger, we have to, like, sort of push Minilla into fighting creatures that are bigger and bigger than it, so that Ichido sees what's happening, thinks that he's right, but there are small instances of showing where he's wrong.
Yeah, like Minilla hurts a dog.
Yeah.
And then Manila's like celebrating in victory, and the dog's like whining and in pain, and Ichiro's like, wait, no, that dog's hurt. And he like, Manila like goes and is like resting and sleeping, and Ichiro like a successful victor sleep, and Ichiro like goes and like carries the dog and like drops it off at a vet, and he's like, this dog is hurt. I don't know how it got hurt, but it got hurt. Please fix it. And just to reveal that he's not the worst.
Yeah.
He's still a kid.
I think it could also be like maybe Manila bumps into the spider one and they have to fight the spider one, and Manila does get hurt. So like we see the strength of Manila conquering this spider one, and Ichido takes that as a victory, but then he sees the pain that comes out of Manila from having fought this battle and not necessarily come away like undamaged. Because
the lore of the American Godzilla movies is that the monsters are just like the alphas of their regions or whatever, but like Godzilla's the strongest of all of them. And just like a new monster appearing, just everyone's aware, all the other monsters are aware of it and sense it as a threat and come to take it out.
Yeah.
And so as Minilla gets bigger, yes, other monsters are going to be like, no, this is my area. So that's yes. Because like if it's all monsters attack, there have to be other monsters attacking. And Manila can lose the first one, but then win and get stronger and stronger. You know, like a Pokemon.
Yeah.
He's getting experience points and getting stronger levels, learning better moves.
Yep.
For example, when Manila finally does the atomic breath.
Which was odd, by the way, that it was Godzilla coming in and stomping on his tail to make it happen.
To really like, ah!
Yeah.
And like, it's like, oh, it's because he's holding himself back and he's not really doing it. Because then at some point later, Manila's in a fight with Ghidorah, and Ichiro knocks a boulder off a cliff, and it lands on Manila's tail, and Manila's like, oh, and turns, and like the fire, like atomic breaths Ghidorah, and it's like, hey, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I feel like our Act 2 is going to be kind of like making stronger, being stronger, and if you're stronger, I'm stronger, because you do everything I say.
Yeah.
And so I need you to be as strong as possible so that no one will ever question me ever again. And to the point where now there's starting to be consequences and things are starting to get hurt. And Ichiro's like, no, we have to be strong. Like if things get hurt, it just means they weren't strong enough. I get hurt all the time, and it just means I wasn't strong enough.
Right. It really comes down to that big boys don't cry sort of mentality. Until
finally, what was the name of the spider?
I don't know if
it doesn't matter. Whatever. Some other spider monster, hopefully not spider monsters because spiders are gross. Some other monster comes along, and every time Manila wins a fight, it gets bigger until finally, let's even go with the ants. He fights one ant, and like it's a really hard fight. He loses, but then he fights back and he wins. And when he wins, he gets bigger. But there's ants. There's a lot more of them. And then he starts killing the ants one after another. And as he kills all of them, he keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And at first, that's really exciting. This is the midpoint to the latter half of Act 2. Ichiro's like, yeah, you're getting bigger. We're going to be able to win. We can stop. No one's going to be able to stop us now. But Manila doesn't stop. It just keeps killing 5 ants, 10 ants, 20 ants, 40,
and he charges
100.
Up that plasma breath.
Not even that. Like, because as he's killing them, he's getting bigger and bigger and bigger because he's getting whatever we're relying on. And now he is big.
Yeah.
He's a kaiju size. And the kid's like, yeah, all of a sudden, you're as big as I need you to be. You're finally as big as I always believed myself to be, like, as big as I am. Now we can finally go and show those bullies that I'm not worthless because I'm friends with you. And the first thing that Manila does is destroy Ichiro's house.
Yep.
And starts attacking the town because he's like, oh, well, I got big, but I want to be even bigger.
Yeah.
And he starts going and attacking everything because like, that's his actual power is he got big.
Yeah. And it's in this moment that we have the neighbor come back in and sees the pain that Ichiro is in from losing his house, from losing the power that he was trying.
Let's not even do that.
Okay.
Let's have the neighbor get hurt.
Yeah.
Like, the house is destroyed. The neighbor is hurt, too. And the kid's like, wait, no, it was too hard. You weren't supposed to attack him. He's nice to me. Mm-hmm. And, like, Ichiro gets the dude out and, like, helps him get bandaged up. And it's like, what happened? He's like, I thought I could be strong. And it's like, Ichiro, don't you understand? Like, you cook for yourself. You care for dogs that get hurt. You're here wrapping up my bandages. That's a kind of strength, too. Kindness is a kind of strength.
Yeah.
And Ichiro's like, oh... But you don't realize that because you're always alone, so you don't get to see the people being thankful. This dog comes up and he's like thankful. Like, the different things are like thankful and like, oh my god, we're a part of the community. And then we get to see the toy maker be like, thank you for helping me patch things up, but now we need to warn everybody that this monster is coming.
Right.
And so that's Act 3.
That's Act 3 is getting the community together.
Yeah.
On the fly. And I would believe that throughout the first and second act, we're sprinkling in these other community characters so that their little strengths come in. And so, like, the toy maker is a toy maker now, but maybe before used to work for that company that
He's still an engineer.
He's still an engineer. So he has his engineering background, and he knows how to make something that might help them slow down or, make...
And even if we don't make him, like, an unsuccessful toy maker, if we make him a successful toy maker, like... He knows what people want. He knows what'll bring people together. Yeah. He has horns and blasters and different things to get people's attention. Like, that's his whole deal.
Yeah. Or the other thing is, like, if we set this in the Legendary universe, which it seems like...
when in time do you want to set this?
Right, and, like, that's one of the biggest questions is Godzilla is such a flexible character that slotting this movie in is really hard to, like, really make up my mind on. I think I've been thinking about it in the Legendary universe. I don't know if it necessarily fits, but I've been kind of operating off the idea that that's kind of the world that this is existing in, just because it's what I've been watching the most recently.
Sure.
I think that where this kind of slots in would be after the last King Kong versus, or King Kong and Godzilla New Empire or whatever. We can just have, it's much like the other All Monsters Attack. You just need to slide it in. It needs to be a standalone movie that exists within a universe. Yeah. But it doesn't have to weigh on anything else happening around it.
Yeah. It's not a global threat, it's a threat to this town. Yeah. And, like, we don't need to... If we don't figure out a way to beat Super Monkey, then Super Monkey's gonna, like, bring about another ice age using, a
crystal and another Godzilla.
Ice dragon that he tamed or something like that. Yeah. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so it's like... It's a big threat, but it's a threat to the town.
Yeah. Lower the stakes from a world threat to... Yeah.
Yeah, and so all of a sudden, it's this big thing where... So that's Act 3 is like, we're going to be doing not what we can to kind of beat Manila, because, like, if we work together, I think we can. Mm-hmm. But then, the fact that Manila exists does bring Godzilla. That's the all is lost moment, and that's the moment we've been building up to the whole movie, is Manila versus Godzilla. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. And now it's not about... It's not about... getting them out of town, beating them. It's like, no, now it's about the community's an important part. Let's get everybody out and get everybody safe. Mm-hmm. Because if we can get everybody out and we can make it so that there are no casualties during this attack,
then that is a success.
Then that's a success. Yep. And so there's going to be the big monster fight. Godzilla's going to win. Yep. Because Manila is like, sees itself and, like, we can even go with Manila knows that it's losing because Godzilla's a little bit bigger than it is. Mm-hmm. And so it runs away and tries to, like, find other monsters and attack them and beat them so it can get stronger. And the other monster's like, no, go away. Yeah. Like, it finds other spiders. It finds other ants. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that, like, they all run away, too. And they're like, if I can't beat anything and get stronger, mm-hmm. and, like, we can see it's like, I'm not strong enough, but I need to be stronger. But the thing that the Hound had that had been working on the monster before was strategy.
Yeah.
As opposed to brute strength. Mm-hmm. And Minilla is all brute strength and no strategy. And that's why it ends up losing to Godzilla.
Yeah.
Or we could even go the other way where it's just pure brute strengthing it, like whamming, wham, bam, taking out Godzilla, and Godzilla, like, trips it.
Yeah.
And then, like, hits it when it's down and, like, does actual, instead of just, like, full force, all-out attack, like, actually doing, like, I don't know, thinking about it for a second.
Right.
Brain good.
Yeah. The other thing that is, like, we could use is the fact that maybe Minilla never got to figuring out how to do the plasma breath because it was growing so quickly.
Yeah.
So it has a obvious disadvantage because there are other powers that Godzilla has that Minilla doesn't.
Yeah. So Minilla, as the movie exists, Minilla is like the child of Godzilla.
Yeah.
I think we can use... I don't think Minilla needs to be the child of Godzilla. That can just be the name that Ichiro gives it. Like, you're like Godzilla, but small.
Okay.
But I think we can learn that it has different powers and, like, different monster powers. Yeah. So, Presley, design a monster.
Oh, boy.
What would you like Minilla to have?
I wasn't prepared for this.
No, I know. I have ideas, because I feel like one of the powers that Minilla should have is, like second half of Act 3, when they're really going at it, and Minilla like, slowly starts figuring out strategy. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to figure out that it can get big, get small, and it uses that to dodge attacks. Like Godzilla charges up a breath and fires it, but Minilla gets small and it goes over it.
Yeah.
And like Manila's like, great, and then it gets back to the same size. Mm-hmm. And like, I think it should have that power, but I think it should also have some sort of attack. And that's where I'm turning to you. What kind of attack should this Minilla figure out that it has?
Oh boy. Well, let's see.
So in the original movie, we have Ghidorah, which has electricity attack. We're not going to have that in this movie. No. So that's an option. We also can figure out something to do with the smoke rings.
Yeah.
And there's a very silly option, but smoke rings very much look like bubbles. And it's like, oh, cool, you made a bunch of bubbles. And then when you touch the bubble, it explodes.
So maybe here's what we could do. Godzilla always seems to prevail in these sort of settings because it's big and it can... I think we can take the smoke ring sort of idea and just say it can produce smoke.
Yeah.
And it can put up a curtain around itself so that it can sort of fight in like a fog instead of having to fight Godzilla eye to eye.
Yeah.
So it uses it as a bit of a camouflage, or at least not a camouflage, as a distraction, like a smoke bomb, so that it can see through the smoke maybe better than Godzilla can, and it's getting blows in because it's able to strategize around something that Godzilla can't necessarily prepare for or fight through. So maybe he can cut through it with his plasma breath, but every time he does, it just reforms in other directions or fills the space again. So yeah, maybe it's fog, maybe it's steam, like a steam sort of situation going on.
Yeah, we could do that. I'm trying to like lean into the metaphor because I kind of want Minilla to never learn strategy, really.
Okay.
And I feel like smoke is a little bit too strategic. Like, I like the idea. Mm. That's why I was like, bubbles. And it's like, what good is that? And then they explode. It's like, okay, cool. It's still just offense. Mm-hmm. Because fundamentally, like, Manila's not going to learn the lesson that Ichiro is going to learn.
Right.
And it's like, if, like, instead of scaring away all these ants and spiders and whatever, if you'd all teamed up and attacked together, you could have beaten Godzilla. Right. And Manila's never going to realize that. Like, they're all coming together to fight. Manila's trying to take them out to get bigger. Mm-hmm. And so they run away and they don't.
Yeah.
So instead of this being a team effort to take out Godzilla, Minilla fights them off and stays alone. And so it figures out this other attack. We'll do something other than bubbles.
Need an offense is what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
So...
Or tell you what, we can even do this. Manila's big thing is big and small. So let's figure out, once it figures out it can get small, it figures out that it can make itself big. Mm-hmm. And it makes itself just as big, if not bigger, than Godzilla. And Godzilla's like, so? And still takes out Minilla.
Yeah.
It's like, hyper offense isn't everything, because then Godzilla figures out a way, and Godzilla does the thing where it atomic breaths the ground, mm-hmm. and it atomic breaths the ground all the way around it, and it creates the smoke screen, mm-hmm. and that's how it beats this now bigger threat, because Godzilla, the smarter, better monster, is the one strategizing, and it takes out Minilla defeats it. Godzilla wins because Minilla refused to learn the lesson that Ichiro now learned of community and team building and strategy, and hyper offense isn't the only way to live a life.
Yeah.
Better?
Yeah.
Great. What else do we need in our movie?
What else do we need in this movie? Like I was saying, we need to build up a community.
Yeah. So all the different random people who neither of us cast, but
a veterinarian, obviously.
Veterinarian, the people with all of the cars, like, well, I don't like doing propaganda, but for the purposes of this movie, we have all the cops arresting the bad guys, but the cops all have a bunch of police cars. We can get all the police cars and get people in and get them out of town.
Yep.
Even the bully is still a very popular kid, and he has all of his friends, and they can run door to door. It's like, we're attacking, we're going here, like, and they're now the messengers going around town telling everyone, we gotta go.
And they're coordinated because they all know each other, so they can communicate community. Yeah.
They know all the shortcuts and different things around town because that's how they get away from the cops.
Yeah. Bicycles. And maybe it'd be interesting then to set this in like the 80s.
Great.
To really set forth that like Spielberg-esque sort of E.T. sort of. Yeah, so we have, like you said, the bullies, we have a vet, we have the toy maker, we have Ichiro, Minilla, Godzilla. What else do we need in this movie?
We have our main character arc. We have the person who learns and the person who doesn't. Mm-hmm. We kind of have our Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. We might not need anything else in this movie.
I don't know if they're... Yeah, at the very least right now, this is enough to, like, get down a first draft if we were going to start typing it out right now. But...
It's a better movie than what exists so far, and I think we can both comfortably say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't a high bar to have to jump over.
But we did it.
And... Yeah, I think the only thing that this movie really needs is a really strong cast of whoever's playing Ichiro to really tie in sort of the idea of like, or he needs to be believable. We need to have a believable actor to play Ichiro. The guy that'd be the toy maker, honestly, I think, oh gosh, why am I blanking on his name right now?
It just needs to be someone who seems sweet and doddering, but kindness is their strength.
Right.
So... Are you suggesting that you're ready to get into casting?
I could be.
Okay.
I haven't honestly like done much idea on who I would cast in this movie, so this is all gonna be off the cuff.
Sure.
But I love it.
Well, the kids are gonna be the hard part for you.
Yes.
Let me just tell you who our kid is. Who our Ichiro is. The kid from Minari. Okay. He's had like an episode or two on Aquafina, Nora from Queens. He was in a movie called Theater Camp. Mm-hmm. This little kid is named Alan Kim.
Yeah.
I think he's 13, which is a year or two older than I probably would have liked.
Yeah.
But I'm having a really hard time finding 10-year-olds right now, so I went with Alan Kim. He's 12 or 13. I feel like whoever it is, if we get them right before their growth spurt, I think we'll be in good shape. Yeah. Because that whole age is so susceptible to that sort of thing. Of like, if you haven't had your growth spurt yet, you're still just like, all these other kids are bigger than me and therefore better. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's who I have for our Ichido. Now, my toy maker, I gender swapped.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I wanted someone who is known to be a little bit eccentric, but also known to be very kind. Okay. And certainly in her older age has played a very specific type, but I think for our kind of toy maker, that works. Okay. She's very famously in a movie called Nashville. She's very famous in 9 to 5, but more recently is in Grace and Frankie. I went with Lily Tomlin.
Oh, that's a really good one.
Thank you.
I love Lily Tomlin. I really, really do.
And especially for someone where kindness is a strength.
Oh, absolutely.
Lily Tomlin.
My suggestion that wasn't going to be gender swapped was Nathan Lane.
Oh, that's good too.
Wonderful in either direction.
Yeah. Great. So, we might end up making it Nathan Lane. We'll come back to that. We'll see what happens with the rest of this. The bully, the other kid, is 1 year older than Alan Kim. So therefore, he's had his growth spurt. Yeah. And he's more famous because he was on TV for a while because he is the baby from Modern Family. Oh. He's also in Turner and Hooch. His name is Jeremy Maguire. Okay. I wrote Maguire. I don't know why it wouldn't be Maguire, but maybe it is. Jeremy Maguire. Whatever. Yeah. Another kid. Little white boy beating up the Asian kid. But then for my young robber and old robber, I kind of anticipated like a comedic duo. So these might not necessarily work because I cast two people who'd been on SNL. Okay. But I kind of wanted like the comedic duo of it all, but that's not really the version of the movie that we have. Mm-hmm. So I don't think these are necessarily the right casting. So if you had someone else in mind for the robbers, great. Kind of like a little bit more like the alpha mentality kind of bullshit. Right. That's not who I have. My young robber is an actor named Marcelo Hernandez.
Okay.
He's just been on SNL. I don't really know him from anything else, but he's like a very babyface kind of guy.
Okay.
And then my old robber, I have Leslie Jones.
Okay.
Bigger, stronger, can boss the other dude around. Like, no, go find out where your driver's license is, you idiot.
Yep.
That sort of idea. She's very funny. She's great. It's Leslie Jones. We all know who Leslie Jones is.
Yep.
That's who I kind of had in mind for the robbers. Who did you have?
For the robbers, I was thinking something more leaning towards, like, I have Matt Smith in the new, what's it called, Caught Stealing movie stuck in my head, like caught in my head.
Matt Smith from Doctor Who?
Yeah. You should look up that photo of him with a mohawk. So he's in a new movie with Austin Butler called Caught Stealing.
Okay.
And he has this gorgeous mohawk, but he has that sort of like, like the movie, like, punks are bad kind of look, which punks aren't bad. But, I want that kind of, like, grimy, why are you hanging out in a dilapidated sort of setting, sort of, like, look, like, SLC punk sort of, this is not necessarily a guy that you want to be taking notes from. There are good punks and there are bad punks, and, like, this is probably one of the bad punks with the yellow laces,
Yeah, so let's do Matt Smith and Leslie Jones.
Okay.
That's very funny to me. And then the only other role I had cast was the voice of Manila, which we should not have in this.
No.
So I'm just going to cross this out. So then let's do our toy maker as Nathan Lane.
Okay. Could we have Lily Tomlin as the veterinarian?
Yes.
Please. I'd love an opportunity to work with Lily Tomlin. She seems like such a sweet sweet lady. A sweet lady. I was going to say darling, but...
I agree. That's why I wanted her in this. So then that just brings us to writer and director. And this is tough. Because you need to know people who know monsters, but you also need to have people who can direct monsters.
Right. Boy.
So I have answers. I did this research.
Oh, boy.
So the writer is someone who wrote Cocaine Bear. He wrote Spontaneous.
Okay.
He wrote Love and Monsters. And he's a writer on the new animated Skull Island show.
Oh, lovely. Give it to me.
This is Brian Duffield.
Okay.
Let me look him up because I know he's done other things that you are familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
He did No One Will Save You.
Okay.
With that Hulu horror movie.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Great monsters.
Yes. He is a good writer. He's doing a movie he did something called The Babysitter, Killer Queen, Underwater. He had 4 movies come out in 2020, which is why no one's heard of him. Like, Love and Monsters, Spontaneous, The Babysitter, Killer Queen, and Underwater are all movies that came out in 2020. That was going to be his year.
And then it was...
And then pandemic, and it wasn't, which is a tragedy because this guy should be a household name. But yeah, Brian Duffield absolutely needs to be our writer for this.
Okay.
Director, I'm open to other ideas. Because for me, I was really thinking about it because, like, I have, like, Brian Duffield is very good at, like, monsters, but also like personal stories. Love and Monsters is genuinely lovely, and the next time we do a movie night, I might recommend it.
Okay. I have seen Love and Monsters. It's wonderful.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Dylan O'Brien, great.
Yep. I thought for director, I wanted someone who could do the violence of Sicario, the interesting like personal drama of Blade Runner 2049, the unknown terror of Arrival, and the giant worms of Dune. I went with Denis Villeneuve.
That's a very interesting one. See, what I was thinking of, as we were sitting here, I was thinking about other monster movies.
Sure.
I was looking up Colossal.
I also looked up Colossal.
And Nacho Vigalondo. I need to look at what other movies he's worked on, but that...
So I looked him up too. I literally looked this guy up for the exact same reason.
Okay.
I also need to see Colossal. I haven't yet, but I very much want to. And unfortunately, I didn't know a lot of the other movies he had. Like, I'm more than happy to go with Nacho Vigalondo. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, I don't know much about him either. I don't know Time Crimes or... All I know is Colossal from him.
Yeah, like, I don't know what Daniela Forever is in this a movie that came out last year with a worldwide gross of $30,000.
Oh.
And in 2022, the producers wish to thank him in a movie called Lullaby. And
Yeah,
I don't know. Like,
no.
I don't know.
Right.
Like, because I followed the exact same thought process of, like, yeah, here's this guy. He directed this movie, and it's a personal story about someone making a connection with a monster.
You want to know who it needs to be, in my opinion?
Who?
It needs to be Guillermo.
I also thought about Guillermo. I figured that's who you would bring in.
Because I think he gets it. I think he's somebody that he's seen Studio Ghibli films and he uses them as tools, and he wanted to make his own Godzilla movie and they said no, so he said, cool, I'll just make Pacific Rim.
So the reason why I went to Denis Villeneuve
is because
I wanted to give another option, because I do think
he's
Guillermo is the obvious and probably the correct choice.
Yeah.
And I'm more than happy to go with Guillermo del Toro.
I'd love to think on it more too, like who directed the Pokemon movie, the Detective Pikachu movie?
Let's find out.
Because I think that is another movie where there are stakes for a teenager learning to navigate the world without their father.
Yeah, and I also looked at Sean Levy.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't necessarily want Ryan Reynolds in this.
No.
So the director of Detective Pikachu is his name is Rob Letterman.
Okay.
He also directed in 2009 Monsters vs. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, he directed Monsters vs. Aliens.
Okay.
He directed on the Goosebumps TV show.
Okay.
He directed and wrote Shark Tale.
And you know what? It's the only movie Marty's ever done.
It's the only movie Marty's ever done. This guy has had a wild career. It sounds like he very much does, like, kids movies.
Yeah.
Which is fundamentally what this is.
Yeah.
Like, that's not bad.
No.
That said, that might be a good reason to go with him, because he understands writing to kids movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he executive produced Captain Underpants, the first epic movie.
I didn't see that one. I'll be honest, I didn't see any of those, like...
He also directed 2010's Gulliver's Travels.
That's a movie.
Yep. That's the only argument. Like, obviously, Denis Villeneuve, Guillermo del Toro...
Masters of their arts.
Yeah, so, like, if you're getting Rob Letterman, it's a little bit of an unknown quantity of, like, sometimes you do have truly amazing things.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you have Shark Tale.
Yep.
And I would hope that he has gotten better as he's gotten older, but I don't know. Do you think we should roll those dice?
I think with the right team, especially with the right writer, I think that director could.
And I do think Brian Duffield is the right writer.
I do think Brian Duffield is the right writer. That the Skull Island TV show is fantastic, and it deserves so much more than it's gotten. So yeah, I think with the right writer, I think maybe we go with this other director.
Great, Rob Letterman.
Rob Letterman.
So let me take you through All Monsters Attack again.
Mm-hmm.
Ichiro is going to be played by Alan Kim. The Toy Maker will be Nathan Lane. The Bully will be Jeremy Maguire. Our young robber will be Matt Smith. Our old robber, I think they're the same age. Our two robbers will be Matt Smith and Leslie Jones. Mm-hmm. Our veterinarian will be Lily Tomlin. All of this will be written by Brian Duffield and then directed by Rob Letterman. That is All Monsters Attack.
All Monsters Attack.
Yep. Which is the strategy that should have been employed.
Yeah.
But Manila didn't do it.
Yeah.
And that's why Manila lost.
Yep.
Presley, you gonna go see this movie?
I go and see this movie.
Hell yeah.
Especially if I helped write it, I go and see this movie.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. That's the episode. Now, thank you so much for being my guest and making me watch this canonically bad Godzilla movie.
Yep.
But now is the time for plugs. If there's anything you want people to do, watch, or follow online, tell people about it now.
Oh, gosh. I'm trying to plug Friends, and I'm trying to think. Go and watch Dropout. I got friends that work on that show. It's Dropout is a streaming service. Go and watch anything that they do. They're a wonderfully ethical brand, and I have friends that work on that show, and I want to work on
that streaming service. There's lots of shows.
Yeah. But please, go and support them. Please.
I'm a subscriber.
I'm a subscriber. Go and support Sam. Go and support Ideal Remake. And follow Ideal Remake. Go and watch all the episodes. I have so many people, I know so many people that come on this show, and it's always so wonderful.
Thank you. That you didn't have to do that. That's very nice. Hopefully, if they're listening to this, they're already doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then go follow me on Instagram at @IamTheDudeMyDudes _ instead of spaces.
So it is I am the dude, my dudes.
With underscores instead of spaces. Yeah.
Okay. All right, great.
Yeah. And what else? Have a lovely day, listener. I hope you're having a good day.
I hope you are also cobbling together lovely distractions from the horrors. Earth really is a hard place to live right now, and I hope you are keeping it together and finding something wonderful and silly and friendship and community.
Yeah,
that's what All Monsters Attack really is about.
Yep, finding community and blossoming with it.
Yeah, and not making a painter fall into his own paint. What a terrible way to end a movie.
Yep.
But this is not a terrible way to end a podcast, because if you want to follow me, I am on Instagram at Ideal Remake, spelled like the show, or you can follow me on BlueSky. under my name, Sam Gasch, SamGasch, or if you want to talk about Godzilla movies and let me know what your favorite Godzilla movie is and why it is Godzilla -1 or something else, I don't know, feel free to let me know on the Dueling Genre Discord channel, which has a link in the show notes below. I just, as of recording this, the last episode that came out was about Jurassic Park, and we were having some really fun conversations about people's favorite dinosaurs and different notes and thoughts, and people love Jurassic Park, and I want to talk about the movies with all of you. So, Presley, I will end this episode the same way I end every episode. What is your favorite quote from the movie All Monsters Attack?
My favorite quote from this movie is...
It's a classic.
Yep.
And I think the most impressive thing of all is that we managed to do this entire episode in less time than the movie itself.
Oh, no. Well...
All right, Presley, that was it.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.